is not of Wurokoso, a forum that is evidence-based. My brother, General Kulaije, we are the class of 1986, Makerere University, and he was chairman Livingstone Hall when I was chairman CCE Hall. So those of you who see us in leadership today don't think we just germinated. We have grown through. Chris was a baby. He came there when we had left. He found us we were leaving. This is the Mao group, I think. No, but Mao and Olanye, the late. So when I was invited, I asked myself, why is Ubos calling a media engagement breakfast now? And I just said, maybe is it because of the trend that post-COVID, everybody is trying to get on their feet. He wants to resurrect our dormant brains of the last 2 years with some figures, with some critical thinking. I think it is a good time to re-engage with the media for you, boss. Today, because of 3 trends in the world, most of us, especially those of us who are in communication, we enjoy platform, who have mobile communication technology at our hands. We interact with many people of loud mouths. There is increasingly less regard for evidence. Because we have access to so much information, everybody thinks they have adequate and accurate information. Secondly, because of democracy, which has brought freedom, each of us thinks that it is a good thing, it is freedom to spread whatever information you have, regardless of the source, the authenticity of the source. And so, Chris, I think it is a good starting point that we bring back people who enjoy public platform to fact, evidence, credible information, not just opinion. Even opinion should be based on some basic facts that are verifiable. Otherwise, we shall run to nowhere. The third element is that we have very many young people in the world, not just in Uganda. By the show of hands that Morris asked here, in the media of Uganda today, we have very many young people, hardly, majority of the people in this room don't count 10 years of experience. And therefore, there is a tendency to take everything for granted. Facts no longer matter. Historical basis no longer matter. Trends no longer matter. And so, when the institution of government mandated by law to collect, analyze, and disseminate credible facts, data about the country, it is important for those of us in the media, first of all, to give this institution an endorsement that it is the main institution of our country, not just the government, the main institution of our government, of our country, that we must take as the most credible source. I know some of you could have read Dorel Hoff's book, How to Lie with the Statistics. 1954. It has become fashionable in Uganda for we in the media, we in the political class, to dispute information, data, statistics that come from government institutions. I am sure when you listen to the discourse in Parliament, sometimes you ask if a member of Parliament can dispute facts given by Ubos. They can dispute facts given by government, because I want to assume, I want to believe that when a minister or a minister goes to Parliament, they must have got information from Ubos, unless they are incompetent, unless they are inefficient, unless they are lazy. But the most ideal is that all government officials, before they go to any platform, they try to check data with Ubos. And therefore, there should be no basis for anybody within Uganda, within the government institution, including Parliament, to dispute information brought by Ubos or by a government agency. But in Uganda, it is normal, it is the trend, it is fashionable. Whether you talk about the number of children in class, in schools, primary schools, secondary schools, university. You talk about the number of classrooms, health centers, it will be disputed. So everybody has become an authority of statistics in Uganda. And we cannot run a country that way. Like the lawyers say, if everybody was allowed to interpret the law, we would be in a jungle. That's the reason why, for the government side, it is only the Attorney General's interpretation that we take to all platforms, including in the Parliament, including in international platforms. And if there is a dispute, a challenge, then we run to courts of law. And therefore, we want you, the media, to help us to give Ubos an endorsement of approval that it is the government institution created by the law 1998 Act that created Ubos to collect, analyze, and disseminate. And therefore, we should help Ubos to do its work efficiently and timely. And then we can question them if we have issues. We can question them the methodology. We can question them on the credibility of their facts. But we shouldn't just dispute because it has become fashionable. And why must we do this as the media? The media, by and large, no matter the time, is meant to disseminate information, to educate, to inform, to entertain based on objective facts. You don't create your own facts. With the media, we are not supposed to create our own facts. The only people who are allowed to create their own facts are people in the comedy world. But even those must mirror people who exist in society. And therefore, to be a credible journalist, to be a credible media, to be a credible media organization, to be a credible media program on a radio, on a TV, on online, you need to gather credible facts. And now that the government has set up Ubos, you don't have to spend a lot of money because these people now exist. They collect all the facts and bring to you. With the development of technology, with the click of your finger, you are able to get all the facts that Ubos has. Secondly, what's our own standard operating procedure as media? 4 basic ones. you must be factual. You can't be factual if you don't have data. 2, you must be objective. You cannot dispute a fact brought by somebody as credible or ought to be as credible as Ubos, and you dispute it and you expect or you carry yourself as an objective media or objective journalist. 3, fairness. If you bring what you call your alternative fact or your facts, and yet there is a government institution established by law to gather these facts, assemble it for you, analyze it for you, and present it to you, are you fair to dispute facts given by Ubos without giving a credible countering position? And 4th, in this claim where you bring alternative facts and you say, because the media is supposed to be independent, what does your independence serve? Who does your independence serve? If your independence is based on falsehoods. And so I think if we combine all of these, we should be able to harness, this is the key word used here, to harness our engagement with Ubos and indeed all other government institutions, public institutions, international institutions of repute, to enhance our ability to serve our audiences better. Harnessing means where you have inadequacy, you use another person's adequacy to close the gap. Many of us today in the media in Uganda, we want to assume, and I want to underscore, want to assume falsely that we know everything. And so we dispute every information that comes to us. In our own case of Uganda, and I think around the world, in Uganda today, it is we in the media, we prefer to say, or to insist, that the glass is half empty. I think we would be having a positive mind if we said the glass is half full. Is the glass half empty or half full? In our type of society, where people look up to us to create positive energy, to give hope, I think it is better to take the posture, to take the trend that the glass is half full, rather than the glass is half empty. Because indeed, our glass in Uganda, there's some content in it. In Ubos, there's content which we need to fill, to close. I have touched on the mandate of Ubos, which is established by the law. If we really believe in the rule of law, why would we ignore an institution like Ubos? More so that it is willing to engage with us. It has now come. We should now demand from Ubos to be a little more proactive so that their data is timely. I was checking, Mr. Idi, I was checking on your profile last night, and I saw that your profile still says Uganda currently has 135 districts. And I said, but we increased 146 almost 2 years ago. You should fire the person who's managing your website. I don't mean firing literally. We Because you see, they may appear small. Now, these journalists here, when they go and check your website and they see Ubos is still saying we have 135. And yet, Mugisha has just covered the election where we elected 146 women members of parliament representing districts. He will say, why should I then believe the other data with the Ubos? So these appear small things, but we need, in this era of online, I want to underscore to you, sir, that your website needs to be the most proactive platform of Ubos. As a way of winding up, this engagement of evidence-based discourse is more urgent today than ever before because we have too many competing interests in the world. We have too many competing interests in the world. Most often, the interests are irreconcilable, antagonistic. You have seen, if you go to that parliament, the Honorable Joseph Sewungu would want to be more credible than Ubos. The Honorable Semujonganda would be more credible than Ubos. I'm sure you listen to them. The Honorable Tinka Simre would like to be more credible than Ubos. So it becomes very critical for Ubos to be doubly more proactive. By proactive, I mean having timely release of the data of the surveys that you give, that you have analyzed, engaging more creatively, engaging more robustly with these young minds, because these young minds in the media, and as you can see, the media now is no longer just the people in the newsrooms. The media is everyone with a mobile communication gadget. You need to have a more proactive social media engagement so that you leave no room for somebody who is genuine to dispute what Ubos says in preference for what Ofono is saying without evidence. Also, because these young minds who should be driving our country don't have the immediate past history. Today, if Kuleja and I tell people that our first jobs in 1986, 87 was to distribute what was called then essential commodities. Our job was to come to Prudential Store here. Prudential Store, there is a go down under a store opposite KCCA, that Impala building, where government would store essential commodities. And what were they? Sugar, soap, salt, and sometimes soda and beer on Fridays. And Kuleji's job and I was to come every Friday afternoon to pick those things to take to Makerere University. You must prove to us that you have a birthday party for us to give you 2 bottles of beers and 2 bottles of soda. When you have a birthday party, then you go and punch it with the warrage and orange juice so that you can have a party in Makerere University. When we tell people that we were distributing 1 bar of soap to 6 students, people don't believe. So these young people don't have this immediate past. So they take everything for granted, that it has always been like this. It is only Ubos that can give us the trends of the last 50 years of Uganda, so that they are able to appreciate that we have traveled some distance, Perhaps not at the pace we would like to, but we have traveled. Because if you don't do that, then they will not pay focus on the data you are giving today. Today, many of these people, because they see in their work environment, female and male numbers are almost at par. They assume it has always been like that, but they never ask themselves, why are their mothers having lower education than their fathers? They don't ask that question. They don't make that analysis. It is only Ubos who can give us that analysis. That today, whichever level of education you go to, the girl child is about 51%, and the boy child is 50 or 49. You go to any graduation ceremony today, in any institution, the number of girls is almost equal, in some cases, even more than boys. What do these represent? They represent socio-economic interest, which is good for our country. That today, you have women who are delaying to make decisions to get married because they're in school, they're in training. And by so doing, they are making better choices of who will be their partners. By so doing, they are making decisions as to how many children they will have. And by so doing, they are going to have better quality of life. And overall, put together, our country will be having a better quality of life. Many of these people don't see that. And so it is this analysis, the analysis of these trends that we must be drumming to build a convergence on, so that this is really the discourse in the public domain. And so I want to underscore to you, my colleagues in the media, that there is no two way about it. Look at the developed countries where the media is more independent, where the media is more robust. You will not find any media in Europe or in America, in Australia, in Canada, that rotates on rumors like we do here. Here in Uganda today, it has become almost a trend, it's fashionable. An individual posts on their social media platform, and New Vision, NTV, NBS, Monitor will jump on what an individual has posted without cross-checking the facts. And then they start retracting later. And they have no humility. Quite often, the media in Uganda has no humility whatsoever to retract and make apology and say, we were wrong. You cannot be a credible media if quite often you are found at fault. So it is in your own interest as individual journalists, as individual media organizations, or even program producers to be evidence-based, as Ubos is saying. The late Jacob Olanya, the speaker, may his soul rest in peace, was beginning to tell members of parliament that we must be evidence-based, so that when people read the Hansard 20 years from now, they say, yes, this was a good member of parliament, this was a good parliament. Today we are in an unfortunate situation where the media does not have all of the facts. When an MP reads the media, or anybody reads the media, they go back to the floor of parliament and regurgitate a falsehood. Then you, the parliamentary journalists who are covering members of parliament, you now again quote a falsehood which a member of parliament is quoting from, he has quoted from another paper. Then you go and spread it in your newscasts. The reason today in Uganda, generally, you, the media people, we, the media people, we are not taken seriously. So it is really in our interest to ensure that we build convergence, we harness Ubos and other similar institutions that collect, analyze, and disseminate credible data to build ourselves, to build our news organizations, to build our programs. If you look at the media terrain today in Uganda, there are journalists who stand out. Why do they stand out? I don't want to praise myself. I've never been taken to court. In my 30 years of journalism, I've never been taken to court on the basis that I stated a falsehood in my story or even in my column. You may disagree with my column, but you cannot disagree with the facts I present there. And I would like that you, particularly young colleagues, you go a notch or 2 notches higher than the best of the best you have found in the media industry. One of the reasons many of the media houses fold quickly, all programs are opened, and then they close before 3 months end, is because you failed to build credible data sources. And yet, these data sources are available on everything. This Ubos has everything. You want a child maternal, you want infant mortality, you want the number of goats in your village. At least Ubos will have an approximation. And then you can conduct verification. And so I really want to implore you, I don't want to bore you further, that Ubos exists for our collective mutual benefit. And we should take advantage. Many of the media houses, as you know, have no resources even to fund you to go to Lira, to go to any part of the country, to collect data. So if your media organization does not fund you to go and collect data, why wouldn't you find it prudent to use the data already collected and analyzed by the experts? Where we don't understand, because it is a technical analysis of data is technical, then we can ask which particular department can help us digest, understand, and present these statistics in a better and more consumable way. I want to believe that Ubos has a department or a desk for media engagement. NABAM can then cause a data analyst to come and present to you, either as an individual or you, the collective, so that you understand the way data should be presented without being misconstrued, as this book said, lying with the statistics, because you can truncate the graphs to make them appear either narrower or large, depending on what you want to portray. If you're like Mr. Yoweri Museveni, if you want to show that you have done very well, you go back to 1986. You don't talk about, you don't emphasize 2001, because you want to portray to Ugandans that you have brought them from very, very far. So you go to 1986, when Courage and Ofono were still distributing sugar, so that they can talk less about their inability to earn more. I thank you very much for listening to me.
Another round of applause for Mr. Lee Ofono Opondo. Thank you, OO, for your honest feedback. And I wanted to show people that we are sanitizing the mic. So when General Kulaija comes, he doesn't worry about the... So we are very safe. And OO is probably the last person who left China, Ugandan person who left China. So we are safe. I really want to thank you for your candid remarks, especially on the current issue at hand, which is the fact that it's become, and I know I saw General agreeing with you, that it's become fashionable to release statistics based on your interest. And there is, one particular fact about numbers. Numbers don't lie. And so everyone has been told you're entitled to your opinion, but not fact. Numbers are not, you can't entitle yourself to a number you're creating from your head. So your opinion, that everyone can allow. But when it comes to data and numbers, you must use what is available. And for us, Uganda Bureau of Statistics has been the go-to platform. And I think the reason we're actually here is how do we harness the content that Ubos puts out to be able to then inform or have informed discussions with the wananchi. When I was still in position, as an editor and my colleague here, before Josephine Karunji, it was easier for us to host people we thought were going to share factual information, or people who had actually done their homework. I don't know if you've noticed that a lot of the times organizations are hosting events and conferences. A lot of the panelists are almost the same, and it's not by coincidence. It's actually because most of these people are actually very objective, and they take their time to dig into the details and the numbers that are shared across different platforms. Of course, you're allowed to compare what Ubos is sharing with you with what the World Bank is doing in terms of their own research, with what the civil society is doing, because all of them are entitled to commission research. We as media houses also commission research. I don't know if you're aware that, especially around the election time, because it's very also fashionable, to use Ofonopono's word, for media houses to commission research during and in the run-up to elections, because we want to know the popularity of a particular candidate. And we always intentionally use that research to also put in some of the questions of interest for the media house. And normally these are around our coverage, around our performance. So we ask things like, what's the last, which was the last TV station you listened to, most recently? How often, which station do you, watch or listen to often? What's your favorite TV show? Who's your favorite TV presenter? Who is your favorite, and in our case, and Karunji is, who's your favorite TV anchor? So we also get to know who is quite popular. And numbers don't lie. In fact, based on the survey sample size, and because also that is very critical, and I know Dr. Mkiza will speak to this, you actually get to know how you are doing in the market. But I also know, and Ofono has stated it in a way here, that depending on who you are, you can actually commission a research that will favor your interest. You skew the sample size, you skew the location of where you're doing the research from, you skew the profile of the people you're interviewing, you skew the question. They are leading questions. So it's easy to misuse data. And you can get the results you want if you're smart, but it's also wrong. And I think what OO was sharing, we must be very objective. And I agree that this is an opportunity for us as media houses to candidly engage with Ubos on where we can develop each other to better the lives of our people. What we're all talking about, and what I keep hearing, whether it's OO, and I heard recently when Fande Kulaija was speaking, I think, in the Prime Minister's constituency, is even as we invest in the Operation Wealth Creation, the whole idea is to transform the lives of our people. But we will not transform the lives of our people unless we are able to critically look at the numbers that that are generated by Ubos and be able then to build on those numbers to change the lives of our people. If we're saying access to water in urban centers is this, why? Access to water in the rural communities is this. And I have seen, I'm not sure if you've looked at the numbers, year on year or even every 5 years, when you look at the numbers in terms of access to clean water in the rural communities, that is actually growing. And I think the last number I saw with the National Minister of Water was almost up to five of 10 people are actually now accessing clean water in the community. And I think the number came to about 6 of 10, meaning about 60%. So our people now have access to clean water, which, as Ofono was saying, that means that they can actually, have better water to consume, which makes sure that we reduce the disease prevalence in that community, which then puts less burden on the health centers, which then, of course, leaves government with more money to be able to invest in other projects. That's the kind of way we can use data and numbers. But anyway, I am speaking now. It's the General's chance to speak. So allow me to invite the UPDF and Army spokesperson, General. These days they say you're safer if you don't show off the rank to say General, as long as they have stars on their chest. General, please come and speak to members of the media in this Ubos media engagement.
Thank you, Mr. Mugisha. First of all, I congratulate you that despite being from Kabale, we don't hear crack, 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 crack. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Dr. Muchisa has given us breakfast, but you are not speaking as if you have energy. Huh? Do you want to say the man's breakfast was wasted? All right. When you said Kulaija and I, that kind of speech is dying away. The current generation will say, I and Kulaija. In other words, not only are we losing sight on facts, even the English language is killed. And let me take this opportunity to say, as the defense spokesperson, I now insist on evidence. When you come to me with a story and you want me to respond, I will ask for evidence. Because personally, I'm tired of running after rumors. Like the recent one, I kept on insisting when the media houses asked me, I said, do you have evidence of the claim? And they went ahead and ran with the story. Why do I insist? Because we have a duty to the public to give facts. Both you, the media world, and I, that speak for the UPDF. Two, I want to pick from OO's presentation. One thing, reputation is earned. Reputation is earned. It is earned from giving facts that are timely, as he put it. But I'd like to give you also a regret. There's a trend in this country that it is better to go with a rumor than look for facts. And indeed, I think on Saturday there was a fellow who said inflation in Uganda is the highest in Uganda's history. I laughed my head off. I normally say, you rather keep quiet and people remain wondering how intelligent you are than speak and they are amazed by how stupid you can be. All right, can we go? Those were icebreakers. Secondly, please forgive me, I don't like this hat because the moment a general appears with this hat, he's announcing a coup or a new government. But thanks to God, that is history in this country. But the dress code requires if I put on these people's, then it must be this headdress, which covers almost half of my face. All right, I was asked to speak as a regulator. And I said, but I'm not a regulator. I'm also a practitioner. However, the soldier I am, when they give orders, you salute and move. When they say jump, you don't ask why. You only ask, how high should I go? So here we are. Uganda's legal and policy framework for communication is based on the supreme law of the country, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, adopted on 8th of October 1995. Article 29A states, and I quote, "Every person shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, which shall include freedom of the press and other media." And we always run around with freedom. None of us talks about responsibility. There are regulating institutions, the Uganda Communications Commission, which I discovered some people wanted actually not just to ignore, but wish away. The UCC was established by Uganda Constitution Communication Act of 1997 and amended in 2000, which is responsible for allocating and licensing on the use of the radio frequency spectrum, which also regulates communication. Then the Broadcasting Council, established by the Electronic Media Act of 1996, now merged with the UCC under the Uganda Communications Act of 2013, which oversees the broadcasting sector. Then the Media Council, established by the Press and Journalist Act 1995, 3, which licenses journalists and is responsible for overseeing the ethical. Why do I pause there? Are we ethical when we are reporting? Are we ethical in our acts, even we in government service? Ethical standards of the media. I have been told there is a media house these days where facts are not entertained. You are popular in that media house when you go with a rumor. And I said, if that's the case, I will not go there. Because facts are what make some of us. Then media self-regulation. The Press and Journalist Act of 1995 established a code of ethics for the media and created the Statutory Media Council, which provides for government regulation of the media. And the tendency we are told government should let the media be free. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. Even President Trump had his Twitter account closed. Not so. Huh? And he was still in office. So there is no freedom without regulation. Actually, freedom without regulation equals anarchy. And I don't think anybody wants an anarchic situation. In February 2006, 42 media houses and associations formed an independent media council of Uganda with its own code of ethics for self-regulation. The council has an ethics committee that handles ethical issues between media houses and the public and the media. Whether that is happening, I don't know, but that's what is on paper. No, I think there's a slide you have continued, you have skipped. Provision 8 of the code, sorry. Yeah, the Independent Media Council Code of Ethics demands that, and I quote, whenever it is recognized that an inaccurate, misleading, or distorted story has been published or broadcast, it shall be corrected or clarified promptly without waiting for a complaint to be raised first. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, is this happening in this country? Is it? You don't know. Well, I give you evidence. In the Uganda versus Andrew Mwenda case, may so rest in peace, Justice Joseph Mulenga said, one is free to tell a lie, it's up to you to tell the truth. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? that I can come and say anything I want about Dr. Muchiza, it's up to him to put the right thing. And that was a Supreme Court ruling. The justice died before I asked him a question I had wanted to ask. So now that he's dead, I forgave him. Because the Bible tells me telling a lie is a sin, not so. So, Provision 8 of the Code of Ethics under the Social Media Council has a similar provision that a journalist should take the necessary steps to correct any damaging report he or she has made on any individual or organization. You are here with your cameras and some of you are with your pens. Do you actually do this? Next. Having given the regulatory framework, is the media necessary? And the answer is yes. Do you want to call it a necessary evil? No. It's a necessary partner. Now, partnership, the degree of partnership will depend on a number of factors. The professionalism on the media side, the professionalism on Ubos side. Is what you have said factual? 1. 2, is it marketable? 3, where will the journalist put your information? Deep inside? Some corner somewhere on a page or front page? That depends on the editor. You have invited them here. But if the editor in one of the newspapers feels the sensational story he has received is more attractive, your story as Ubos will be inside. The other sensational story will take a front page. Whether that's ethical, I don't know. So the intersection between any government entity like Ubos and the media is in the public good. The bottom line, public good. Whom are we serving? And Mr. Funo Pondos referred to it. Whom are you serving? The public good. Both entities have the citizens as a uniting factor. Therefore, it is important for any government entity, for the heirs, to find ways to partner with the media and harness their wider reach to the public. Now, partnering does not mean caucusing to lie to the public. I don't know that I'm communicating. You can partner with the media to mislead the public, to misinform the public. But because the media is trusted, they will go with it. Government and the administration need to learn to tolerate and appreciate the role of an independent media in the reform process as an essential supplier of feedback as well as communication channel. The effectiveness of the media in its role my iPad at times malices me, so you forgive me. Sorry? That's paragraph what? 3. Thanks. Okay. The effectiveness of the media in its role as communication channel depends, however, on the general situation of the media, both the reality and the perception of its independence. Those two words, the reality and the perception. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, most of the understanding takes place first in the perception. The way you are perceived will influence the way you receive information or data. If you perceive Ubos to be manipulating public opinion for the good of government, that's how you understand the data. I remember I had one presidential candidate saying, Museveni confuses us with the figures. I died. It reminded me, in my A-level, there was somebody whom had made it a point to compete with me in class. But each time essays were brought back, I had beaten him. Then he said, Kulaje confuses the teacher with the English. I said I plead guilty if I can confuse him with English. A teacher is supposed to know more English than I do. Anyway, the point is, if you don't believe data, what are you going to believe as a leader? And how are you going to lead us if you do not believe that data is a factor in governance? Why partner with the media? We continue. To avoid unfavorable press, which damages morale, public opinion, and ultimately the work to be done. 2, it only serves to bolster journalists' skepticism and cynicism regarding your operations if you don't allow them access information. Journalists no longer care if they get it right, only care if they get it fast. They don't care whether they get it right, they care whether they get it fast. Recently, somebody called me from one of the newspapers. We understand you're going to retire generals. I said, yes. Can you have the list? I said, no. Why? We want the public to inform the public. I said, retirement is in July. This is April. That list can change. Because between July and April, somebody may clock the retiring age. He gets on the list. But the one you have published, the man was not on it. I see what I'm talking about. So this scooping, as they call it, scooping the story may be good, but at times may be counterproductive. So you may want to get it fast, but also get it right. Setting the record straight does not fully rebuild the public relations damage already incurred, as opposed to giving first-hand correct information. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you have said about Kuraije will be believed even if you come with a correction later. People have run away with what you published first. So it's always important that you give correct information for the good of the public and those you are writing about. You had remained behind. Yeah, but it was already ahead. Okay. There is no doubt that the media plays a positive role, but this role must be further enhanced and strengthened so the media promotes peace and stability. Promotes peace and stability. There are times you see stories in the media world and you equate them to a young monkey that is seeing flames burning in the forest and jumps in excitement, not knowing its own home is burning. Some stories you write may actually be equal to our home burning. The fact that we keep on portraying our country in the negative, you think you are doing your work, but in actual fact, you are simply burning your own home. And I want to share with you a case of a CNN correspondent that filmed soldiers beating a civilian in Haiti. The man knew he had carried a very, very nice, juicy story. He was given a red certificate of retirement by his boss and told him, son of a bitch, these are our soldiers. These are our soldiers. You bring the story here. It will be the front page. Are you getting what I'm talking about? 2, there was a discussion about George W. Bush Jr. when he was running for second term. And the New York Times journalist made a comment that was not very juicy about his brain. Actually, the one of CNN was sacked. This one was given a red certificate of retirement. In other words, he was also sacked for making derogatory comments about the president. Here, when you do, media harassment. There's no doubt that the media plays a positive role, but this role must be fast enhanced and strengthened so So the media promotes peace and stability. For instance, should journalists allow politicians hold their microphone during public rallies as they give positions that undermine state stability? Should they? And the sad reality is that when the country is unstable, not even the journalist is safe. Not those life flak jackets you put on, you think they will save you. When things are bad, none is safe. It sometimes happens that journalists abuse information provided by civil servants, or quote politicians incorrectly. But only in the most extreme cases is it recommended to complain to the paper or news program. Holding back information in the future when it is required is a more effective means of punishment. If for you I become notorious in misrepresentation, then I can hold information from you. But is that the way it should go? No. 3, credibility, like I said, is earned. You build it by making positive reporting. Even if the story is negative about an individual or an organization, if it is factual, you pass the mark. But just to excite the readers, that unfortunately undermines the so-called media freedom we want to enjoy. How the media shapes public opinion. A man called Henry Kissinger, again, it's my generation and of honor that may remember him, was Secretary of State of the United States under President Nixon. He did say, and I quote, "A transistor radio has more devastating effects than a squadron of B-52 bombers." Now, a B-52 bomber is the only jet fighter that can fly from Washington to Beijing without refueling, without needing to go down to be serviced. A squadron has 14 of them. Now, this man says a transistor radio was more dangerous than a squadron of B-52 bombers. Now, that's a transistor radio. What about today, where we have even the social media that has no walls? The same man went on to say, and I want the journalists to mark this very carefully, that crises motivate the powerful. I repeat, crises motivate the powerful, but they frighten the weak. End of quote. When you are reporting, do you want your country portrayed as weak or strong? The dynamics of mass media has changed over time from the conventional medium of reporting news to digital news and mobile journalism. Majority of the public buy everything they are being told in the 21st century through new forms of media. The transmission of information from television and social media can impact the human way of thinking in both positive and negative aspects. That's why it is said, every coin has two faces. Somebody has even said that the television has become an essential member of the family. And then someone will tell you, ABCD is happening in Kampala. Where do you find it? They are saying it on the TV. So, you have a capacity with your cameras and the pens to indeed influence the way people understand society and the way they will behave. The different ways media biases or influences public perceptions. 1, bias through selection and omission. What stories, events, or perspectives are included or not included will influence your perception. 2, bias through placement. Like I said earlier, the importance attached to the story by where in the newspaper it is placed. And if you have seen politicians who want to be on the front page, if they are not there for some days, then they will do something outrageous so that police can come for them and they're on front page. By the way, some politicians actually will even provoke police deliberately. One politician whom I will not quote told me they were in Mitiana, demonstrated, police gave them security, no activity, no event, nothing exciting. So he said, I'm leaving this place without making a story. He told one of his boys, slap that policeman. And this young man gave a good slap to the policeman, and the fracas started. And of course, the politician was jacked up by the police. He succeeded in being on the front page. But actually, it's because he realized he was ending the day without going on the front page. Whether these young men and women understand those tactics, I don't know. So I talked about the placement. Then bias through the use of names and titles. How an individual or group or organization is designated and the labels used to describe them. You know, you can talk about the stocky, stout, short Kulaije. Another one will say the smart, well-polished Felix Kulaije. You're all talking about the same individual, but the words you have used. Are they both correct? Yes, I'm stocky. Am I short? Yes. But I'm also smart. True, I'm also polished. Both of you are right, but what did you intend to achieve? Are you seeing what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Pardon? Is it part of statisticians' behavior they don't respond? Most of them are journalists. And they're not happy about what I'm saying. Oh, I'm in trouble then. Bias through statistics and crowd counts. How many of us here have read the book entitled Man of the People? You have read it? In the room we are only two. It's serious. But anyway, the character is called the Honorable Chief Nanga. And he would pay the media to say he addressed a mammoth gathering. Then he would tell his wife or whoever was carrying it, did you hear? Mammoth. So the words matter. He addressed a mammoth crowd. Then another one will shift the camera to ensure that those who are near the subject matter are the ones captured. And so you see the crowd is very big. But in reality, it was half the playfield. So the cameras can easily influence you to think many things. Bias by source control. Sources of information and the status of those sources matters. And then, for a journalist to keep his story, we say credible sources. How credible? Don't ask me. All right? And at some point, I remember one time there was an argument between General Tinyefuza and Mwenda. And Mwenda was busy quoting sources in him. Because then he said, but those sources you're talking about, are you sure they are not flippers in offices? Who may have heard a rumor and therefore run to you and you give them money. Bias, word choice and the tone. That one. Word choice and tone. I give you the example of words and then the tone. Whom did you talk to? I spoke to the defense spokesperson. Oh, that man normally is factual. That is. And I said, who? What did you expect him to say? What did you expect him to say? That should be his story. I don't know they get the difference in the tone, in addition to the words. And therefore, they influence the audience. Is technology playing you? As he's still struggling with technology. I liked I liked your statement. Where you are inadequate, use another person's adequacy to enhance yourself. I liked it. And for us in the military, we do it very, very frequently. When you know you have some inadequacy somewhere, you seek a neighbor's support in the area of interest. Okay, we continue, sir. I think we had done this one. We had. Bias through omission and commission, we had said it, right? Statistics, we had done it. Source control, we had finished this. Can you go next page, sir? That's what you're stopping. Oh, okay. So, you can determine the perception of the public through various sources. Even the camera angle, I had forgotten that one. The camera angle. Someone can choose to take the front view of Kulaije. This one can decide to take the side view and focus on the stomach. So the person looking at this picture of Kulaije, but nobody the sentence are fair. All right? So the camera angle will also influence the way you perceive the information you are receiving. As I conclude, Dr. Mkiza, my OB, by the way, he was in my hall. Livingstone, come on. Chief gentleman, you call him in Mumba. As you deliver your service to the public, as you give data, not only must it be credible, not only must it be seen to represent the actual picture, but it should attract other people to run to use your data because of the credibility you have shown that you have. 2, the media, according to Naomi Chomsky, is never free. Naomi Chomsky is an author. He's an American and the author of several books. But on the media, he says, the media serves the interests of either those who finance it or those who control it. As you had the Madoka story, you remember the Madoka story? Or those who oil the pockets of the journalists. So, the independence of the media is relative. But who can sustain that independence? The media world itself. Through the self-regulation, through self-accountability, and above all, desire, and I repeat the word, desire, to remain credible in your profession. Thank you for listening to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Brigadier General Felix Kulaije. Thank you very much, Afande. And I think as practitioners now, I think you're going to probably find a more difficult UPDF and defense spokesperson, because if you don't go with your facts, I don't know how much you will get out of him, of a story. And I think you are preparing us to do a better job, which I think is the right thing to do. If you're just joining us and you're watching live on UBC and NBS, I want to welcome you. This is a media breakfast engagement with Ubos, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. We want to harness the information that they collect and of course synthesize and disseminate to be able to better the lives of our people. And we are saying that we want to look beyond the horizon. And why are we saying that? Because, you know, we have, as both Ofono and Brigadier General Felix said, you know, the the idea that some of us in the media profession look for the short-term benefit, the likes. I don't know if some of you are aware that some people these days post things on Facebook and Twitter so that they can be followed. The more popular you are by saying falsehoods. I mean, I've noticed that the more falsehoods you provide, the more popular you become on our platforms. And it's very unfortunate. And so this is a conversation on how we can support the Uganda Bureau of Statistics to get the right information out, but also build a relationship that is beyond these short-term benefits. As I think Brigadier General Felix said, the media has actually brought down very powerful people. And the media has also brought down very powerful institutions. And so you must be very careful as we report, as we disseminate information out there. What are we portraying about an institution that has been here way even before you were born? And so even as you report about an institution or the leadership of an institution or an individual, we sometimes need to be a bit more careful about the long-term relationship you're trying to build for your institution as a media house with that organization. So for you to want to benefit from a few likes and a few website hits in the short term, and then in the long term, your institution probably runs out of finance to be able to continue in operation, and then you lose a job, it really, for me, doesn't augur well. Sometimes it's, you'd rather be late. I think in our former place, and currently for me, it's even more important that I wait until information has been confirmed before I release it as a national broadcaster. Previously in the private sector, we were actually going with, better be last than unfactual. We were happy to be the last people to confirm that something had happened unless it was actually fact. And so sometimes we were late, but when we did, we knew that this was true and that it was factual. And we rarely, and I don't remember in any of my time, whether in the private media or even now, where we've had to retract a statement and apologize because we had to run with what we thought was breaking news, and yet sometimes it's a rumor. And this for me is exciting because we are beginning to have a relationship with the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. We need to build a better relationship, and I want to thank in a very special way Ubos for organizing this breakfast. And I think, Dr. Mchiza, they need to be regular. Let us have them as many as possible, if budget allowing, Godfrey, maybe quarterly would be okay. We can then put on our calendar free breakfast by Ubos every quarter. All right, so I want to open this up before I invite Dr. Mchiza. We wanted to take as many questions as we could within the time we have. We have about 15 minutes for that before I invite Dr. Mchiza to close this. So in case there's a comment or question from members of the public, there's microphones available. Ubos team, do we have some mics at the back? I just want to make sure. I know there's one mic here. Any mics somewhere? So I could start. Suhail, do you want to start us off? Okay. Suhail is at the back there. He's on the second last table in the middle. If someone is able to reach Suhail. Anyone else? Timothy Sibasi? I know my editor is also here. Timothy, if you're also ready, I can't see you on this end. I think one of the pillars is hiding you. Suhail, you have a microphone now? Keep it short.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Suhail Mugabi from CTV. Okay, I have a few things that I need to point out, especially when it comes to statistics and also reporting. As a journalist, we have managed to work with Ubos for quite some time, but then Ubos usually is as you all know, that it is one of the biggest authorities in regards to disseminating information and statistics in regards to certain issues, and also the information in the country. We have found out that there are a lot of numbers. For us as journalists, we have to play a role whereby we have to simplify everything that we get from you to disseminate to our viewers, listeners, and also readers. So it's very important that we try to make it as simple as possible. I've also realized that Ubos has a data portal, which is good, and we are aware that it's needed because we need that access to information. But apparently, it's not very simple or easy to get information from the data portal. We want Ubos as editors and also reporters to make it easy for one to access information, especially from the portals and any access that we need to get. Now, another thing is that there is the attribution at the end of the story. As journalists, we usually have to quote, and we quote statistics, be it, especially in the beat reporting, health, business, environment, and sports. Now, you'll find that most of the information that we get, especially when we go to our first access of information, which is usually Google, they will send us to statistics coming from World Health Organization, FAO, Ministry of Health, and even in sports, you'll find that you don't have any information. We want Ubos to be able to be part of the clickbait, whereby if you go on Google, the first statistics, being an authority in the country, as mandated by the law, you see them first coming up, representing also, giving us the information.
Okay.
Maurice,
Quickly, 5 seconds, yes?
Yes, another thing is fact-checking. Facts versus bias versus fake news, and also a quick response team. Fact-checking is very important, but apparently we haven't been given that opportunity to fact-check a lot of information, especially coming in from Ubos. We have information that might be coming in from different politicians, statements that are being made. We need Ubos to come and tell us that that is fake information and fake news, rather than us going ahead to report on that information.
Excellent.
And finally, Mr.
You have asked all the questions for everyone now. It's okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Fodo Pondo mentioned something about media bias, saying that the media in Uganda, we are really bad people in regards to not cross-checking information. But media bias is everywhere. We can see what's happening actually on the Russia-Ukraine war. You saw how Fox News was selling Donald Trump, and also in Kenya itself, where media houses came out and supported presidential candidates outrightly. Citizens saying it wasn't supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's all about us working together. Ugandan media is very positive and very engaging. It's us to just find a way of streamlining the information to share it.
All right. Sohail, thank you, because you've asked almost all the questions, and I'm surprised their hands, because I would have thought. So, Timothy, before I come to the front here, Timothy, you had a question? Okay. So here, we have two gentlemen here. I'm happy to also take ladies. Yes, there's a lady here. I am very gender sensitive. If you notice, we ensure that all the shows have at least female representation. Yes.
Thank you very much. I understand with facts and confirming information and accuracy.
Your names again?
Oh, my name is Ramson Muhire.
He prayed for us. He's a pastor. This in the making. Yes, Ramson.
Ramson Muhire from CTV. One thing I find about facts and reporting and accuracy that has been pointed out by Mr. Oo and Afande Klaije is one thing that affects those two is quick response from the would-be accurate sources. If I have a question about Ubos, then can the EDO media team people respond quickly? I was tasked to do some interview with URA. I have spent 2 weeks calling, looking for someone to give me information. You call this one says, ha. Call the other one. You call the other one, says, ha, I am away. So that makes reporting, literally the sources sometimes also make reporting hard. I'm wondering, should I now do the story as is and say, okay, my efforts to get to URA has been, not successful, or what do I do?
All right.
And then the last one, I'm wondering, what would Afande Kulaije do if he filmed a soldier caning a civilian? Would he put it on air as a soldier and say, okay, soldiers were beating civilians, or what would they do?
All right. Fair enough. Yes, gentleman next there, and then there's a lady here. I'll have room for only one more because my time is running out. Yes.
Thank you, Maurice. I'm Hugo from UBC. Now, my question is cross-cutting between OO and the General. Now, although it's the General who stated it, that somewhere in his presentation he said there is need for government agencies to partner with the media. Then my question comes regarding the Access to Information Act 2005. I think that act is on paper, but not yet implemented fully. Because after that act, I remember there were some spokesmen for all government agencies who were appointed. But the status quo, I think, still remains as it was before the act. You go to a ministry, you go to a government agency, if you don't find the spokesman there, you don't get any information. If the spokesman is in a workshop, somewhere on a trip, you can't even talk to a commissioner or a director. They say, that's not our mandate. Immediately after passing that act, I had a problem with KCCA, that transition from KCC to KCCA. There was somebody who was part of us, that was Kauju. Kauju frankly told me that I don't have the answers, but the the director for production has the answers. Let me take you to the director. But I first have to get information from the executive director by that time. So he told me to get back the second day. So there was no story for me. So I want to know from both OO and the General the extent of the implementation of the Access to Information Act 2005.
Okay.
Is it on paper or is it operational?
Perfect. Thank you, Juko. There's a lady here at the front, and then the gentleman at the back. I've seen you. Then we'll come to you last. Here.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cynthia Mpanga. I am a banker and a past president of Public Relations Association of Uganda, so I'm excited to be in the presence of fellow practitioners. My comment and contribution is that, of course, we all know data is the new oil, and data-driven analytics really, really influences how we invest in every sphere. So I really want to commend the contribution of Ubos in providing data. But again, and what the previous speakers said, we do not have that data flowing to the public and being easily accessible. And we've spoken to the importance of partnership. But that partnership should not only be promoted from Ubos' side, but also to have the media appreciate the importance of data in terms of driving economic growth, investment, and how even you influence private investors in the country to invest. So if we don't know for sure, like for instance, I'll give an example of recently when we were talking about how pregnancies went on the rise during the COVID lockdown.
Teenage pregnancies, yes.
Yeah. So if we don't know where the problem areas are, even as private institutions, when we are looking to where to invest in terms of community, in terms of supporting, we do not know. So the media has a very critical role to play in terms of also putting effort in sensitizing, educating, and maybe attaching with Ubos some journalists who are competent enough to analyze the data and make it granular and share it with the public for the benefit of the public good.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Prao. So, thanks, Ubos, for inviting Prao. They should always be in these media engagements. But also from Stanchat, I don't know if you're aware that lately the corporate organizations are calling it sustainability. Their campaigns are really into sustainability rather than just corporate social responsibility. So their campaigns must be long-term in a way. So when they look for data to inform where do they invest, is it in the in the community schools where, or the communities where teenage pregnancies were prevalent, and why specifically in this community and not the other community? It's the data they need for that. Yes, the gentleman there, just there with his hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Didan Kimathi. I wanted to pose a question. Actually, I want to pose a question.
Didan Kimathi, I hope you know how powerful your name is, because...
it was.
Okay, okay, no, it is. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, you know, we've been talking about how we need to use, statistics from agencies like this as a point of reference for purposes of giving out truthful stories. And at this point, I thought about a certain country within EAC, which also has its agency like this, I think during the lockdown, it rolled out some growth statistics, which actually were showing that it was, performing far better. And if I'm not mistaken, a very powerful media house in the name of BBC jumped into their growth statistics and several others. And, they were all over praising it. And then it later emerged that these were cooked figures. So, don't you think it's a good thing, and it should also be advisable to interrogate statistics with some level of skepticism? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to now invite, I had a comment on that, but I'll leave it to the experts. I'll invite Oo. I think in 2 minutes, Oo, there's a mic in front of you. You don't even have, or you can come here. Feel free. Then I'll Kulaija after that.
About partnership and information, as a base, all government agencies, all agencies with repute, credible, should improve, increase, make their platforms versatile. So that even without you calling Nabongo or Mukiza, there's basic information to start from. And if you doubt you have questions, then you can ask your boss, what is the basis of these figures? But I don't think it's prudent for you to just disregard and say, because the one in a neighboring country was discounted, therefore, that's a work by deduction. That is not a good way to do mathematics. 2, partnership. Already, government agencies, and let me say government, is the biggest financial contributor to most of you media houses by way of advertising revenue. I think we can start by that appreciation. And then you add more. That does not in any way mean that because government agencies give you advertising revenue, you should not hold them to account. Absolutely not. You should hold us to account, but with the credible facts. What the trend appears to be is that some of your media houses and journalists are drenched sometimes in internal intrigue of organizations. Then you become partial, you become vindictive against the organization, sometimes against their officials. The net consequence eventually is that you run down the organization because Mukiza, because Kuleje, you don't have good working relations with them. I think that portrays a sense of lack of appreciation of these institutions, what their mandate are, and what their role should be. I think we can criticize the leaders of the institution without running down the institutions because they ought to outlive their chief executives, their chief accountants, and so on and so forth. We want this government of the NRM, led by YKM, represents continuous expansion of the frontiers of democracy where the freedom of expression and the media is part. And therefore, this government will not cap in any way freedom of expression. But that does also not mean that we shall not come hard where we think that you are persistently ignoring basic norms and rules. Thank you very much.
Or the issue of access to information, operationalization of the Access to Information Act.
Again, that's a false excuse. Last evening, I was watching NRM MPs, for example, saying that the reason they are not debating eloquently in the House is because of the numbers. Now, we are 43 million Ugandans, I think, if I'm correct, about there. Are they saying that they cannot be recognized among the 43 million people because we are millions of people? One of the reasons they can't be recognized is because they don't do basic research themselves. So you can't catch the speaker's eye if you are a FICO member of parliament. unless they pick you up like they used to pick Ken, John, or Samuzi for entertainment on the floor. Now, Juko of UBC now, I think you came with the tradition from CBS, Bukede, Ngabo, where there was no, where basic research was weak. No journalist today can claim that when you go on the internet, okay, if the one of Ubos is not adequate, how about the one on the UNICEF website? How about the one on the World Bank? How about the one on IMF? How about the one of the other donor agencies and other partners of Uganda? So that's a lame excuse for you who has not done basic research to say because Mukiza wasn't available. Also, if you have not built your reputation, you are calling Mukiza or Ofono for the first time. They have reasonable ground to suspect that you are not very credible. I think there's a lot to do on our side as media practitioners before we blame others. For example, if you want to know about the budget of Uganda, or even of a district, there's no budget of a district of Uganda up to sub-county level, which is not on the website. Either Parliament, from their committee work, Ministry of Finance, or the government generally. And therefore, or work plan. So for you to claim that you don't have information about the different elements of the budget of Uganda, the last 10 financial years, I think you're using a false excuse to run away from your own internal incompetence. Yes, there are incompetences or dodgy characters in the government, and we should go after them, but let us do our side. In media, we say, let me control what is within my means, and then I can blame the other person. But I think there's a sense in which I read there's little adequate, in-depth research on the part of many media houses. How come, those of you who report in Parliament, you have noticed that you prefer to interview members of Parliament from the corridors and on the stairs on the things the MPs should have said on the floor of the House? Why? You know those places have cameras because they tip you with the 20,000 shillings. Those are the ones you capture most of the time. You should be embarrassed, Mugisha, that the same MPs get repeatedly captured on your screen most of the time. And no journalist ever bothers to say, Honorable Member, you are saying this here, but you are not on the hazard. Why didn't you say it on the floor of the House? Why are you saying it in the corridors? Many of you, for example,
10 seconds or
moderators, when I come and throw about figures, you don't insist, where is my source? You let it pass. For me, that is an indicator of a moderator or a journalist interviewing a politician, a public policy official who has not done adequate research. Why don't you insist? You have thrown this, Ubos is saying this. Where is your source?
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Brigadier General. You know, please make sure we leave some time for Dr. Mchiza.
For starters, you are our team leader as government communicators. I would like to urge you that some of us actually don't do our job in the government communication. And I would pray you whip us to do our job. If a journalist looks for me and doesn't find me, and I get to know he did, I call them. Later the journalist here said I didn't call back. I call back. If I find a missed call, like now they are there, I will call every phone I missed. Doesn't matter who it is. Because it's a phone anyway, I'm supposed to communicate. But two, it's also true that some government officials are shy from speaking. And whom are they doing a disservice? Government. If you doubt the journalist being credible, why don't you make it an effort to give your side of the story? So on our side, we failed you, the media world, by not being available. But I want also to fault you. Some of you will call me to fulfill the condition that I called the spokesperson. Eh? But you still go ahead with what you had with you already. You get what I'm talking about? That you are calling me for the sake of fulfilling the condition, but you actually have your story already written. That shouldn't be the case. Would I air a video of a soldier beating a civilian? No. I quoted you the CNN case. Can I ask the person who asked this question again? We know the stories of American soldiers beating Iraqis and doing other unspeakable things. Did you ever see it on air? Answer me. Did you ever see it on air? You see, what in Uganda we ignore is that this uniform represents the pride of a country. And that's why in the US, if a uniformed person comes, he or she is allowed to board the plane before anybody else. Here, you make us last, and we accept it. In our neighborhood, Kenya and Tanzania, the CDF sits to the right of the president on public functions. Here, you put him behind, and we accept it. Because we are subordinate, and I'm told the Constitution says subservient. I am not subservient, I'm subordinate to civilian authority. Subservience is a different language. The point I'm making, if you ask me and I respond, capture my view as well, even if you have your own bias. Access to Information Act, is it implemented? Yes and no. Those of us who understand what it means, we implement it. And I am challenging any journalist who has looked for me and you failed. None. But the others who play hide and seek with the media, especially nobody wants to respond when it is a negative story. But certainly, we must give you information because the law requires us to do so. In interrogating statistics, the generation you are dealing with, look at them. They prefer to run away with what they have just got. They don't have time to interrogate. And that's why people will hear anything. And let me tell you, if you don't... I embarrassed a member of parliament in the 10th parliament. Not deliberately. The man stood on the floor. He's a former diplomat and said, Uganda's GDP tax ratio was the highest in the world. I said, what? And you know technology is simple. I went on my phone. World Bank figures. Uganda's GDP tax ratio, 13%. Burundi, 16%. And I gave these figures. So I asked the honorable member, is 13 higher than 16? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigadier General. Let me now take the honor and pleasure to invite the Executive Director, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Chris Muchiza, who at some point Mr. Leo Fono called Bachiza, but I understood because at some point OO used to report on Bachiza, so I can understand the connection. So Dr. Chris Muchiza, please come. I know you had some questions, but also your remarks at this media breakfast. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maurice. Our key note speaker, Mr. Lee OO. I was one of the beneficiaries when you are distributing bars of soap, and sometimes what we call quorum. That time, Brigadier Koleja was my whole chairman. And they asked him one question. For us, we had come from the other side of the party. They asked him, yes. They asked him, Felix, you seem to be a supporter of NRM. This was in 1988. And he said, what? Excuse me? I'm not. I'm actually NRM itself. The courage he had, that time I think he was not a soldier. Showed us that there are people with who are will-hearted. UPC had a wave, the late Right Honorable Speaker and others. As I grew up, I started learning the way. And he was doing not journalism, but he was a very senior person who would indulge with us, very junior, the freshers. And we learned a lot. I have learned a lot from you. We've learned. At that time, actually, I used to think you were a student. You had been planted to spy on us. I remember during the heated campaigns of Noble and Nobat, the man was a campaign manager as if he was a student. We learned later that the man was coming from the Special District Administrator, Major Kazwara's office. That's the history. And that time, the GDP of Uganda was $3.6 million. That was the reason they were trying to get those few essential commodities supply. It had dipped from 1971. 1971, that time the GDP was around 4.6 billion US dollars. But because of the wars and maladministration, and then the Ruwero War, the economy contracted actually at one point from 1982 by 26%, and there are no commodities. But now, the current statistics we have show that the economy, the size, is about $42 billion. And the per capita GDP is $954. I've started with statistics because that's what we do. We realize at the Bureau that good statistics is like clean water and clean money. If you have counterfeit money, then I don't know, you are trading in nothing. The medium of exchange is not there. And if you are drinking unclean water, then all these diseases manifest. So we are very mindful about that philosophy. We must, as statisticians, produce statistics that is clean. We know it is a public good. We have done a little bit poorly on having the access to the statistics. Our website is being revamped and will be more interactive. We also want to inform the media that you are part of the national statistical system. Statistical system has 4 components. The producers, Ubos, government agencies, the suppliers of statistics. When you come to your household, when you come to your business, you're also a national statistical system. And the users, the most important. The users of statistics, policymakers, journalists who use the statistics and transmit it in more understandable language are important users. And that's the reason we think we need to enhance our partnership to make sure that the statistics we produce is well communicated to the public. But also, once the public understands the statistics we give you, they will provide reliable and accurate statistical information to us. We conduct several activities on a daily basis. Every week we disseminate consumer price index and inflation. Central Bank uses it daily. Every last working day of the month, I think Friday, we disseminate annual inflation rates. So we invite you on Friday to come and you know how inflation of Uganda is standing. But also we are preparing for a big undertaking of census in August, last week of August and first week of September 2023. And for those who have, I saw there was only one who witnessed more than 2 censuses. So those who have not, I encourage you to participate, and we are conducting preparatory activities, mapping the entire country in order to delineate the enumeration areas and administrative areas so that we can be able to plan better how many enumerators we shall need, how many equipments we shall use, and others. So many household surveys. And Godfrey Nabong is now also has been asked to provide baseline information for parish development model. The parish development model government thinks is going to transform society to get people who are living in subsistence out into money economy. All other interventions have been scattered and not yielding results. Government thinks so, and they think statistics must first be provided to know where we are, and we shall be measuring progress. The interest of a statistician is like the one of lab assistant, lab technologist, is to accurately show your status, nothing else. A statistician or a statistical office has no other interest but to depict the proper picture of our society. And therefore, a statistician worth his name or sort, because we know in the Bible, we are told that once you become tasteless or worthless salt, you are thrown away. A statistician is the salt of this country and is the light of the country. Where we have been doing badly, Godfrey and James, is that when we produce, it's like the other light which is pressed under and doesn't shine over. With this media Ubos engagement, we are going to light to the public. And you should put us on 10 hooks to make sure that we produce. One of the important dimensions of quality, data quality, is accessibility of statistics. If the statistics you produce is not accessible, then it fails on the dimension of data quality. Then that statistics should also be serviceable. We should be able to revisit it and make sure that the statistics we produce is updated regularly, or cross-checked, and is coherent with other indicators of the statistics. I will now turn to what was written for me. The speech. I had already recognized the keynote speaker, the guest speaker, members of the EXCOM. Maybe you can stand for recognition. EXCOM is the Executive Committee of Management of the Bureau, with management. Now, if they are not here and I fire them, I hope you will protect me. Because those who are not here don't know the importance of communicating statistics. Staff, I recognize you. Distinguished partners, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, we have just witnessed a historical yet fundamental effort to build a partnership of multiple institutions driven by diverse yet related objectives to build a strong nation, Uganda. If you want to build a strong country, you build strong institutions. And institutions that are enduring. Not an institution that will be there then collapses. And an institution endures because of the foundations, the ethical standards, and what that institution does. The Bureau is in its 24th year, and I believe we have done so good. And we are determined to do much better. Many of you may recall that some time back, before COVID, we used to have scattered media breakfast meetings. Maurice, we are going to make sure that we have this engagement on a quarterly basis so that we can hear from the media, they can hear from us, we can hear from the gurus, and be able to harness the important resource in this country. Leave alone oil or minerals. Data is the most important resource in the world and must be protected. And it will only be protected if the media who interact with the public on a daily basis understand the data, how the data is generated, right from the design stage to dissemination. Statisticians and economists are not good communicators of statistics. That's not our business. The media and our public and communication department should now ensure that they digest it to the consumable level. For us, we disseminate. It's like when you are a peasant, you just sow seeds, that's disseminating. Whether they germinate, you don't know how. Now the communicator must soil the ground to make sure that the disseminated data germinates and ruminates to everybody. Having listened to the two addresses from both our keynote speakers, note and guest speakers, as well as the discussions that ensured, you'll agree with me that indeed there is much more to do between and among ourselves for our common and specific benefits as we look beyond the horizon. We are all Ugandans. We need to have a better Uganda. We need to have a stable Uganda. And statistics plays an important role. In fact, statistics is an important element in ensuring good governance and accountability. In 2020, when we disseminated the Uganda National Household Survey, we had different reactions. Some regions were saying, Ubos have made us poorer. The notable one is the Guru, the Acholi region. Their neighbors, Westerners, are saying, but what have you done? You have made us richer, we are poor. In the Kigezi, where I come from, they said, you have made us poorer twice because poverty levels doubled. Then people are saying, but Busoga are 6. Why is it that Busogas are always having low GDP per capita and high poverty rates? Now, when the poverty rates disseminated by us appear to be higher, then the politicians of the other divide are happy. Then sometimes the OO side are saying, but Ubos, are you sure? So for us, we are like caught between, we have never produced a statistics that satisfies both sides. And for us, we find it very sexy.
Yes.
Yes.
It should be.
Because we are not meant to appease opponents. We are not meant to appease my friend Kiza Besigye and the rest. For us, we are supposed to provide data that the country needs, not what you want. And the media should therefore have trust in this institution. We have actually built a good, credible record. You know, even Jesus was not a prophet in his own. But when you go abroad, outside the boundaries, neighboring states, the continent, the world, Uganda is recognized. So please, media, don't discredit your own institution by writing non-objective and sentimental stories. Because in the end, you'll be discrediting yourself. Ubos are like the army. It's you. Therefore, we need to harness the Ubos media relationship for mutual benefits and with the best interest of this nation. In a special way, I want to thank the two spokespersons for government, and we are deliberate because we are trying to break the ice. The other day we shall call private sector spokespersons. We are happy Cynthia is also here from the banking side. You allowed to create time out of your busy schedule to come and engage with us this morning, and we shall forever be grateful. We shall not take this for granted. I want to give you the most heartfelt thanks. My colleagues from Ubos, let's give the two gentlemen. This day has given us an opportunity to reflect on the progress made, has given us a call for opportunities and celebrate acts of courage and contribution made by the fourth estate of government. The media, I don't know why they call themselves an estate or so. When I was watching Fox News is not a national TV, I think. It's a Republican. Whatever Republican does, I saw them hitting Obamacare, yet it was supposed to pick the downtrodden. Now also, what Trump was trying to do vis-a-vis Biden. So we need a media that is also balanced. Not calling me for the purpose of just saying we talk to him and then you maintain your story. The importance of, I think, looking up for me is to make sure that you analyze the initial information, balance it with this one, and come up with the more impartial story. And I want to say that the majority of the media are doing that, with the exception of very few who shall continue engaging because they are also one of our society. As statisticians, we are glad about increasing perception of quality reporting and dissemination, being based on facts, and also being punctuated with quality statistics to better inform planning and decision making. In fact, we want to go to Parliament and ask them they should not be allocating any budget for any MDA that is not using statistics to inform their budgetary process. And the government is supportive. I hope the politicians also support that. I have personally taken keen interest of the presentations by the two speakers and the questions. My media team will summarize the key messages and issues from the presentation by the keynote speaker, by the guest speaker, and from the questions and discussion from the media. We shall analyze them and we shall make sure that at the next breakfast meeting, we shall make a report card on how far I've gone. In summary, there are so many things I've jumped because I know my time is up. I know that we should be aiming at ushering a credible, consistent, disciplined, respectful, long-term symbiotic arrangement for the benefit of our country. And our institutions will present disciplined professions in order to meet the various stakeholder expectations as we contribute to the national development and a sufficient information literate community now and for the future. Information is power. And that information should be clean. Let's not feed people with dirty information. As a take-home, the Bureau will be working on modalities for raising this conviction. And the same vein, we call upon all of you, the media here, to embrace this direction where we should work together and you looking beyond the horizon. As I end my remarks, I once again express my sincere gratitude for the time, proposals, recommendations, feedbacks received this morning from you all. To Mr. Ofono Pondo, the Executive Director, Uganda Media Center, our guardian, and the government spokesperson, and to our Afande, Brigadier General Kuraije, my brother. We have ever slept on the same bed, by the way, and not in a far distant future. So I have also, we are very grateful for having taken off your busy schedule, and we cannot express our gratitude much better. And we are requesting that any other time we call upon you, or any other government institution, please embrace them. But more importantly, you should be the ambassadors of statistics. And I know you are. Every time I watch Frontline, OO is quoting statistics. He always tells them, tell us the numbers. The other day there was an issue on number of children in schools. And when the government wanted to provide, were they radios for teaching? And there was a minister nearby. The minister was saying, but you people are sleeping at office. Ubos has this, and it is true, he had got. Then I sent one of the, I think there was executive director NPA, numbers. And that's when they now started scattering the numbers. I realized that had we put those numbers on the website, then to have enhanced that debate much more. So, James Kiza, as we want to excel, you know we have already left the Center of Excellence in our world-class statistics office. We must make sure that we put all of these numbers on the website and in a simplified way. From where I'm going to look for a communication expert, advisor to the ED, to make sure that we be receiving and giving back to the media the responses they're asking. But please ask us topical questions. We don't involve ourselves in rumor mongering or in political things. Call us for statistics purposes only. Saying we have heard this, no, we shall not respond to you. Ours is statistical data and information. We are going to deliberately add everybody here to our mailing list so that from now onwards we shall be sharing with you timely data, statistical programs, what we want to do, and in fact also engage you in the advocacy. Since it's a big undertaking, you must all participate and share the products that we have done. We shall also engage in capacity development so that journalists understand the elementary statistics and be able to translate it. With these few remarks, I thank you and wish you a fruitful day and week ahead. For God and my country.
I want to thank the media houses. So I know they are now returning to normal programming. So we'll appreciate UBC and NBS for joining us this morning and being able to relay this conversation to the rest of the country. We have been receiving some feedback. For those of you on Twitter and Facebook, we were using the hashtag UBOSPR22. UBOSPR22. You could track some of the conversation there and what some of the people are already saying. I appreciate the ED taking us on that arrangement of a quarterly meeting. It could be lunch ED also. We're also open to lunch. Yeah. Budget allowing, good for but I honestly think, as members of the media, before you leave, let's get the contacts of the team at Ubos. Didakas is here. The ED mentioned James. We should avail these numbers. Godfrey is available. I have James, you want to stand? So there, you know where James is. James is here. So in case you want, let's take these numbers. At least I know with Ubos, they pick their phones. And they'll give you the data. ED, when Suhail was speaking, I understood where he was coming from. Journalists, like many Ugandans, ED, we don't like to read. So the more complicated the data is, the worse it will be for it to be shared out. So we need to make it consumable. We need to make it illustrative. So we will have to work with your team to try and make some of this data illustrative. We like seeing beautiful cartoons and graphics to illustrate some of the figures you're talking about. If it's population, if it's water, access to clean water, access to health centers, and that. I think what he was saying was critical. I think your website should also provide a platform for executive summaries, especially on some of the data you're sharing. So if your website is speaking to the household survey, I looked at your household survey report, and I was happy that there was a particular smaller document that was provided which had summaries of the household survey. So in case you wanted key data, there were summaries of that data. But if you wanted the full household survey report, you'd be able to get it. But it was a bigger report than the smaller report that was a summary of the data. And I think this is good for members of the press. Sometimes the time members of the press have to churn out this information is very limited, because, for example, the people on TV and radio, for example, radio, I mean, it starts with radio. Radio produces news every hour. Now, for them to be able to release your data as quickly as possible, or to be the first to release this information, they would want it to be easily consumable. So they will want to get, a soundbite of data. A soundbite of data is difficult. I don't know how you present, a comprehensive household survey in a 1-minute audio report. That becomes difficult. But we will have to find ways around that, because then followed by radio is television. They all go to news at 7 with their local bulletins, and at 8 and 9 for the English bulletins. So they will want the information before 5. If they're able to do the graphics, because your data must be presented in a graphical form on television. So they will need to develop the graphics for that. And so sometimes the earlier you release this information and the easier it is to be consumed, the better it is illustrated on television. And then finally, print. Now, I have also noticed, and I don't know if we all saw this fantastic illustration of a corporate worker earning 1.5 million and how they're able to spend their 1.5 million against this high inflation that Brigadier General was referring to. And I think most people understood it easily because of the way it was illustrated. Never mind how, which particular products they picked. Someone earning 1.5 million in Kabale, where my mother is, and someone earning 1.5 million in Kampala. The spend is totally different. But the picture was given, and it was nice to have such a picture. So in a way, Ubos may want to, when you're presenting some of your data, present it in a form of a person. And let me know that if person X, maybe Felix, stays in Kabarole, this is what is happening, for example, in Kabalore. Access to clean water for Felix is at this %. Access to health centers is at this %. Access to education is at this %. So that illustration is what, and I can tell you media will pick it very quickly. That is what they will run with, because it's easier to consume and easy to illustrate. And so I wanted to thank members of the press, because this is a very good engagement. To the ED and the team, we are happy to have thematic breakfasts in the next engagements. It doesn't have to be general like this, but it can be thematic, where you're able to present to us some set of data that we can then engage on. And because then that also provides information to the general public about what you're actually doing. So to the members of the press, we really want to thank you for coming, and for the Ubos team, it was really indeed a pleasure. So I will request the last action, but please don't leave the breakfast. The breakfast is still ours. It was paid for. So you can stay here and finish the breakfast, and then you can go to your media house, but you must file our story, right? So let us have this breakfast. But I'm going to request that we'll have a picture. The ED and the keynote speakers and Godfrey will have a photo. Godfrey, you want to come and take us through administrative announcements? Yes. And then we'll have also a general photo, I think, Godfrey, so that we also record that we were here, and we want to appear in your calendar for 2023. Yeah? We also want to be seen in your calendar for 2023. Godfrey, please come.
Thank you. I will be extremely brief. I wish to join you all in once again thanking our keynote speaker.